Yo, yo, yo! What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Let's Play series. If you know, this series is a series here where we chat about a subject in Pokemon Go, and today that subject is how to improve Pokemon Go. What could Pokemon Go do to save the game? I know I'm always on here chatting about negative stuff, and I think a lot of people also kind of get that vibe of like, you know, the YouTubers are like, oh, the YouTubers are always so negative. Mystic7's always making negative videos, blah, 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 and stuff. And like, first thing I'm gonna say is I think people have to understand that like it's, first of all, it's probably just like an unhealthy thing, but like YouTubers have been doing this for so long. So like, we've seen the best and we've seen the worst of Pokemon Go, and you kind of will put how Pokemon Go is on like a scale of that. And if it's not as good as the best, which granted the best time for Pokemon Go, it's hard to say, everyone's gonna have a different point, but you know, most people will probably agree, you know, during remote raid passes, Pokemon Go was an absolute blast. It was making so much money, everyone was having fun during COVID. So that might be part of the high end of the scale, and then you look at it now, it's kind of on the low end. So it kind of like, that's why people are kind of saying, people are always negative. But I personally, and I'm sure other YouTubers try to do it as well, and everybody tries to do it, most people, or I think everybody should try to practice to do it, is to stay as positive as you can and try to look at how to improve instead of why it sucks. Like, you know, if something sucks in Pokemon Go, you can always be like, you know, oh, this new background update is absolutely terrible. But instead of just saying this new background update is terrible, it's better to say, I don't really like this background update. I think blah, blah, blah could fix it. Constructive criticism, right? At the end of the day, you know, people can complain, but I feel like complaining has its points. Like, there's some things in the life that just suck no matter what. Like, this is a harsh example, but like, you know, you lose a relative, God forbid, that just sucks, right? That's just a hard moment, and it's gonna be a struggle to go through. And anyone who's going through that, like, I commend you, stay strong, because it's just, some things in life, it just sucks straight up. But if there's something that sucks that can be improved upon and that like actually has potential for growth, I think it's much better than just to complain about it, to kind of point out how it can improve. Anyway, that is the topic on today. We're back here at the Arboretum. Beautiful garden, beautiful day as well. Because like, it's kind of almost looks like it's gonna rain, but that's what makes for the best videos. If you don't know, shout out to all my video people. Overcast, best weather for lighting. Like, look how sexy I look. Anyway, I'm gonna go find a different spot. That's the intro. We're gonna get right into this conversation. I have a lot of great points to make today. I'm excited for today. My voice still a little bit sick, but yeah. I will do my best to keep yapping away. Also, actually, before we do go, these videos, these episodes are now actually all available to listen in podcast form. You guys asked for it. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, I will link it below. Check it out if you'd rather watch it or listen to it instead of watch it. Because yeah, it's now available in the audio form. Shout out to anyone who's listening, and also leave a review, because apparently that's what pops off on podcasts. Like, leave a review. If you enjoy the show, the podcast, leave a review. I guess this is now a podcast. This is kind of insane how this turned into a podcast. It honestly pretty much is. Okay, Purloin, get in the Pokeball. Also, actually, there's something exciting to do today. Okay, I'm gonna stop yapping. I need to find a new spot, and I'm gonna talk about it. I was gonna get a walking shot, but then it was really wet there. Okay, look, I'm not a smart man, because if you don't remember with the last episode, I wore my white Air Force Ones to this park to record this. And for some reason, I thought it would be a great idea to wear them again. So now they're all dirty. But you know what I always say? I think this is very important to know. I think there's a lot of people in life that are like, oh, you know, I got my new pair of shoes. You know, like if you're a sneakerhead, you know, but like sneakerheads, I'm not gonna lie, like I kind of understand why you guys do it, but also like things in life should be used, right? I feel like something is much better when it's dirty. Someone's gonna clip that. That sounds so bad, but like you gotta use it, right? Like, white shoes are supposed to become dirty. That's just natural law. You know, they're supposed to be used. Like, I'm not gonna buy something and not use it. Pretty much, that's kind of the point I'm trying to make. Look at all the spawns here. Okay, nonetheless, today, first thing that's exciting about today is this. Look at this Pokeball. Oh, this is actually kind of cool. I've never seen this before. Little card comes out because the Masterwork research. Yes, next Master Ball research comes out. Catch 250 Pokemon, use 150 berries to help catch Pokemon, and make 100 nice throws is what's on the menu for today. I think I like the Masterwork researchers. Let me know in the comments what you think of them, but honestly, I kind of enjoy them, how challenging they are. I think anything that's challenging in game, I think there's a balance, because if you make it too challenging, people are going to end up quitting. But anything that's kind of like challenging in Pokemon Go, people will kind of like, it'll give, especially the long-term players, something to work towards. Like me, this is something that I can really focus and might help my motivation to play a little more. That makes sense. Nonetheless, in terms of my motivation, I am just going to turn on the plus, and we're gonna let that, let me just make sure it's on, and we're just gonna let that run because we have some yapping to do. We have to talk about Pokemon Go and how we could improve the game. What would save Pokemon Go? Now, I think the first thing that everyone's gonna talk about in this situation is going to be the golden era of Pokemon Go. At least I say it's the golden era because that's when it was the golden era for me. Which in my opinion was the remote raid passes. Hold on, let me bring the camera closer. This is kind of, I feel like you guys are kind of far. I feel like was the remote raid pass time. Oh, there's a woman behind me. Isn't that great? Yeah, so like when remote raid passes were in Pokemon Go, well, there still are, but like when they were, we could say at their prime, let's just say Pokemon Go was in a great area. Also, the start of Pokemon Go. Let's start there, actually. Let's start. 2016 Pokemon Go. What was that really the best time for Pokemon Go? And were the things in Pokemon Go what would save or make the game better? I would say no. I would argue no. I think the reason Pokemon Go was so popular in 2016 is because it was something new, it was something nostalgic, and it kind of like, you know, when something gets like something trends, it just, at some point, it just starts to trend because it's trending. Like you do it because your friend's doing it, not because you actually think it's good. And that's why I think Pokemon Go trended in 2016. So I don't think that bringing back the, because everyone's like, you know, Pokemon Go World Peace was saved in 2016 because of Pokemon Go. I don't think bringing that back would really save Pokemon Go. I actually argue that 2016 was bad for Pokemon Go because it set unrealistic expectations. So again, I don't think bringing back any of those features or anything like that would save it, but I do think remote raids could definitely get fixed, because I think remote raids are one of the best features for Pokemon Go. Let me explain why here. I always believe that the more people that play a game, the more people that can enjoy it, the wider variety, the more accessibility, I guess, the better for the game it is, if that makes sense. So like the more people that are able to play Pokemon Go, the better it's going to be. And I think remote raids was one of those features that really kind of allowed for the most amount of people and stopped accessibility issues, because that's a problem. I always say Pokemon Go is so political because it's a problem Pokemon Go will have for the rest of its lifetime, is having to deal with literal political issues. You know, like if there is a country in the world that is in war, that is an aspect that obviously the Niantic doesn't really think about, but is technically part of Pokemon Go, because you can't go outside and play that game. Versus a game like, I don't know, Minecraft, where you could, like, theoretically, if your country is in war and you're stuck at home, you could still play Minecraft. I might be speaking out my butt here. I don't know, because it's not something I've ever experienced myself, but like, I could think like Pokemon Go, no one's playing that in, you know, when it's dangerous outside, if that makes sense. And there's many other political issues as well, like accessibility. Anyone who's got a disability, that's not a problem for Minecraft, you know, like maybe certain disabilities, but like, you know, if you struggle to walk or something like that, like you can play Minecraft at home on your computer just fine, but you can't play Pokemon Go. And that's something that Pokemon Go will always struggle with, is that it's it's limited. And I think remote raid passes really fix that. Now, the problem, obviously, you guys know, remote raid passes were nerfed 5 a day with an insane price point. Now, before we talk about how they could be fixed, I do have to discuss the other side of it. I do think that remote raid passes didn't necessarily destroy the rarity of the legendaries, but definitely made them a lot less rare. Like, I don't have that many legendaries or caught that many legendaries since remote raid passes were nerfed. And before remote raid passes even came to the game, I didn't have that many shiny legendaries. I had a decent amount, but I didn't have that many. Or when I did, I really, really had to work hard for them. And I think remote raid passes, to a point, maybe made it a little too easy. A little too easy, you know? Am I going to argue that Niantic didn't way over nerf them? No, 100%. Niantic way over nerfed remote raid passes, in my opinion. So let's talk about how those could be fixed. I feel like my thought train is kind of flying around right now. I feel like I'm talking a TED Talk. I think, obviously, 5 a day is an insane thing. I don't think 5 a day. I think 25 a day would be a good amount. Granted, like 25 a day allows people to, like, you know, anyone who has a disability or whatever can't get out. You can get a good amount of, like, playing. Like 25 remote raid passes a day, that's a good, like, 3 hours of raiding if you know, sit at home remote raid. Maybe even 20 a day. That's a good amount. The main problem, though, is definitely the price. And I think a lot of you guys are going to agree with me. The price is just way too high. So if Niantic wants to fix remote raids, I just hope, like, even if you don't remove the 5 a day, because I understand, like, most people are not even going to spend, even if the prices are nerfed, like, even if we're back to the original prices, most people will probably not do more than 5 raids a day. But I think that, like, the price is just the biggest issue. I don't know why they jacked up the price so much. If the price was just the price of a regular raid pass, it would just be better, in my opinion. It would just... I think it would just bring more people into the game. It would just allow for more players to play, and especially from other areas. Now, before I get into the next point, I do want to talk about, like, I remember when Niantic was nerfing the remote raid passes, the one point they made, why they made the price so insane, is because what they wanted to do is they wanted to reflect the value of a remote raid pass and what you get from it into a... like, they wanted to reflect the value, and they thought it was higher value than a in-person pass, because you get more out of it. Now, granted, in-person passes now get you more XL candies, so, like, those kind of got nerfed, but I think what Niantic could have done to fix this issue is, instead of nerfing the remote raid pass price, is actually buffing the regular pass price, or buffing the regular pass pass in some sort of way. Like, if they made regular passes 75 coins and remote raid passes 100 coins, I think that would have been a much better way to balance it instead of jacking it up. Because I think the problem is, and I think a lot of this... Ooh, a Persian. These things actually get you boosted starters, by the way. The problem with this is, like, in Pokemon Go, or I think it's just a general rule of life, is, like, when people take away something that they had, it hurts a lot more than when they nerf something. Like, if... I don't know if that makes sense, but, like, we all lived to understand the price of remote raid passes, and we thought that was fair, and we understood, you know, 100 coins for 1, 250 for 3, or 300 for 3. But then they took that away, and that hurts a lot more than, instead of taking that away, like, buffing something else, if that makes sense. Like, taking away always hurts more, because we know what it could be. The idea of what it could be is there, if that makes sense. It's like, anyone who's watched Avengers Endgame, it's actually a great example. It's Thanos' whole thing. At the end of the movie, spoilers, skip ahead if you don't want to know the end of Avengers Endgame. Granted, I feel like most people have seen it. Thanos at the end realizes that no matter what he does, even if he erases half the universe will always know what life was like. So what he thought he had to do now is he needed to erase the whole universe and restart it so that no one would ever know what was. And that's pretty much the same idea here, is that everybody knows what was with the remote raid passes, so now it makes it a lot worse for us because we know what it was, and now it's just worse, if that makes sense. And I think that's also with Pokemon Go in general. Like back to the point I made at the start of the video, we know what Pokemon Go was like back in 2016 or back in 2020, so now the game feels stale based on our, you know, again, if we make a huge graph of, like, the level of Pokemon Go throughout the years, we know where we stand now compared to all those other points, and if it's not at the top, then we think the game sucks, and we think the game needs fixing. I don't know. Anyway, that brings me to my second point I want to talk about, and honestly, it conjulates? No. I feel like I learned a new word. Tell me a word I mean, like, coagulates. It coagulates with the remote raid pass thing, and that is just more support for rural players. I think that is probably the #1 overall ass thing. And first of all, let's talk about the issue. Pokemon Go, some of you guys know who might be watching. If you live in a rural town or a rural area, I've played in the rural towns. Pokemon Go, cannot be interesting for more than a month or two. I do not think, like, if you're in a rural town, I do not see Pokemon Go being an interesting game for, like, all year round. Like, you're grinding all year round, you're always going out. Because it's just, there's nothing really to do. Like, there's events every once in a while, but there's, like, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6 Pokestops, you know, I don't know, even 20 Pokestops, 5 gyms, blah, blah, blah. Like, no, you're not you're not going hard. It's a city-focused game, and that's just a core issue of it. Obviously, more people live in cities, but like there's still a lot of people who live in rural towns, and I think that's part of an issue with Pokemon Go is that it's a city-focused game, and there's not a lot of support for rural players. So what could Niantic do to kind of encourage that or increase for city players? Now, first thing I'm going to say is I feel like spawns should not be focused based around Pokestops. This is a controversial take, but if you don't know how spawns, or from what I understand how spawns are taken, is the more cell phone activity in an area, the more Pokemon will spawn. So like if you go to an airport, you'll see there's a lot of Pokemon there because there's a lot of cell phone activity there. If you go to a mall, if you go to a downtown area, a lot of cell phone activity there. I think also Pokestops have a lot to do with it. If there's an area where there's a lot of Pokestops, there's going to be a lot more spawns, if that makes sense. I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if that's how it should work. I think that they should just flat fee across the world, or something like that. Like I think that the top of Mount Everest should have the same amount of spawns, or at least a good amount of spawns. It doesn't need to be the same amount as downtown. I understand there's more people downtown, there's more people in cities, there should be more spawns there, especially if there's gonna be more Pokestops, but just naturally across the world, there should be a base of the same amounts of spawns. Now, obviously, I might be speaking out my butt again. I keep saying butt because I don't want to swear, because I don't know how the spawn works, and maybe this is actually how Niantic has it already. Like, no matter where you are, there's a good base. But again, if you're in a rural town, you know, you're gonna see your little pat rat, little Pidgey, and you're just gonna be like, after. So I think some sort of thing to fix the spawns or just increase the amount of spawns would be amazing. Number two, and I think the biggest issue rural players have is going to be Pokeballs and stops. I know Trainer Club has said this before, a portable Pokestop that you can drop once a day would be a great feature. Maybe not even once a day, once a week or something. And then just other ways to get Pokeballs as well. I don't know, mini games. PvP should get us Pokeballs. A daily research task to get us Pokeballs. Something like that. Getting Pokeballs in a rural town is very hard. Obviously, you have opening gifts and stuff like that. But like, again, you open your gifts, you use your daily venture incense to get like, because I know you can get like a couple Pokeballs from that. You're still like, I don't see a rural player being able to play for more than an hour, and some of them just want to, right? It's like sometimes you just want people, you want to be able to play for longer. So I think all of that is kind of just, I don't know, just an idea and something that I could potentially see Niantic doing to hopefully help rural players. The third issue is obviously going to be gyms, and I think that and rating and all that stuff has to do with the remote raid passes again. I also will say here, and I want to give, like, people are going to be like, you're a bootlicker. I want to always give a benefit of doubt to Niantic because, again, I always say this game is political, and it's very complicated. Like, everything I'm yapping about right now is the easiest said, but the hardest done. Balancing this game is impossible, and it's just going to be the hardest thing. And it's the point I'm going to make throughout this video is that all this stuff I say, you listening to this video could be like, Dax, bang, you hit the nail on the head. Let's go. I don't know, I'm getting so aggressive, but that's exactly what I need. And then, I don't know, Jimmy, we're bringing back the Jimmies, Jimmy Joe from downtown is like, that would ruin the game, or that would not affect me at all. And that's just something you always got to think about. Like how does Niantic prioritize what changes to make? That's a great point. What is the most important change to make? And that's something that we could talk about just throughout this video, honestly, what all these changes I talk about, which one's more important, and how do we prove that one's more important? Why should Niantic do that one first? And that's just something Niantic's always going to struggle with. Anyway, I have more points I'm going to make. This video's not over. I'm going to go somewhere else. My battery's dying. We'll see you guys back in a second. Okay. Is this wet? Kind of, but where's the sacrifice? Guys, I'm so sick. I'm not going to lie. But it is what it is. Okay, let's talk about something in Pokemon Go that I think honestly deserves a mention. And honestly, shout out to, I have to get their name. Maybe I'm going to try to remember to put their name. Oh my God, my shoes are actually so dirty. I have to try to remember to put their name in the video. But they mentioned, and I think one of the biggest issues in terms of, I think just content right now, and that's going to be a big issue we need to talk about, is content in Pokemon Go. And I guess the interest and what Niantic adds to the game. Now, the first thing we talk about is, of course, Pokemon being released. Now, I think there was a stat, and someone might know this, but there was a stat, like for the first 4 months of the year, January, February, March, April, it's May now, right? the first 4 months, we didn't get a new Pokemon until 4 months into this new year. A new Pokemon dropped in the game. 4 months, that's a long time. That's a quarter of a year. Right now, we're at 843 seen Pokemon in the Pokedex, and there is a total, I think it's 1,000 we're at now. Yeah, Goldango is the last one. Total of 1,000 Pokemon, and I've seen 843, which I believe I've seen every single Pokemon available in Pokemon Go. There's not a single one I haven't seen. So that means what? 57 Pokemon available to be released into Pokemon Go that have not come to Pokemon Go yet. And you're telling me 4 months to release a single new one. Now, obviously, when they release one, it's actually normally 2 Pokemon because you release Evolution as well. And we do have like 3 new ones coming out recently as well, Blacephalon, Stakataka, and Naganadel. So there's 3 new Pokemon coming very soon. So that's fine. And then also Necrozma. 5 new Pokemon coming, whatever. There's still 153 Pokemon, we're recording, right? Yeah, that have not been released in Pokemon Go. I think there should be some sort of rule where every month we get at least 1 new Pokemon, or there's some sort of new content. I think that's just a hard issue with Pokemon Go is Niantic likes to drip. It's the drip method. If you drink coffee, you know the drip method. It's just a slow drip release, a slow spoon feed of new content. Now, honestly, on the other end of it, there's also shinies. Now, I'm not really the most well-versed on shinies. I have 631 shinies. I think there's probably a lot more that I haven't really seen, probably. Let's say 700 shinies in Pokemon Go right now. There's still 300, well, no, there's still 100 and similar number, 140 Pokemon that could very much be released into Pokemon Go in terms of shinies. So, like, I don't know. I think at the end of the day, there needs to be, I think, a quicker release or some sort of rule where we get a shiny and a new Pokemon every single month, you know, or every single 2 months. 2 months is even long. And I think that would add a lot of interest to the game because there's just being more new content coming. Because recycling over and over the same spawns, I understand why they do it. There's new players always come to the game. Some of you guys might miss Pokemon, stuff like that. But I think there is a balance, and I think the core message here is there needs to be a balance between keeping hardcore players in Pokemon Go and keeping new players excited as well with new stuff. Because if a new player comes to the game and all they're getting is new stuff and they miss all the old stuff, they're not going to be that excited. But if I'm so mad at my shoes right now. This is a side message. But if a veteran stays in the game and is just getting old stuff, they're not going to be invigorated as well and want to play the game. So, oh my God, there's a chipmunk right there. Come here. No, he doesn't want to come here. So yeah, I think there should be a balance. Again, the rule, I think 1 new Pokemon, 1 new shiny a month would be a great rule to have. Keep people excited. And also, on topic of that, I'm actually curious about this from you guys. What do you guys like for legendary rotations? Because I see a lot of people complaining all the time about how legendaries or megas, they don't come around often enough or they stay too long. Like Tapu, I think Tapu Fini, when it came with a shiny in Nature's Madness and the Legacy move, it stayed for like 2 weeks. And people are like, I don't need 2 weeks of Tapus. Now, I think there's 2 sides of this. Number one, I think it's actually great when a legendary stays longer, especially for something that's relevant with XL candies, because it allows free players who can only use their daily free passes to do more of those raids and get more XL candies, if that makes sense. But then I also see the point of like, you know, you want to keep it fresh and you want to keep a new legendary and keep it exciting. Or when there's like a legendary that no one really cares about, or like people are only getting for the Pokedex, or it's like a 1 shiny and done kind of legendary, like, I don't know, Reggie Rock. You also kind of want to keep that moving. So I don't know. At the end of the day, let me know what you think about it, what you would prefer for a legendary rotation. I think that's more of a complicated subject. And again, that's a subject where Jimmy Joe and John Jimmy are not going to agree on. So the question is, you know, what is correct for Niantic to do, if that makes sense? What should Niantic add? Yeah, I don't know, at the end of the day. Anyway, PvP. Let's talk about PvP real quick. PvP is quite the topic. I think a lot of people... Let me pull the camera closer again, actually. I'm kind of sweating out here, actually. It's really hot. Yeah, PvP is a very interesting topic. I have definitely some points to make about PvP. Now, first things first, a lot of people say PvP is stale and very basic, which I'm not going to argue with you. It is very stale and very basic. Obviously, you know, PvP is a tap-tap. People call it tap-tap game. Now, granted, I think once you start to play PvP and you start to understand how it works, you're going to understand that, you know, at the end of the day, PvP is not that simple, and there is skill expression. As you can see in the regional tournaments, why do we see the top players performing better than others? It's not just because there's an algorithm, there's actual skill involved with counting, fast move timing, making catches, energy management, throwing your moves into the right Pokemon. Like, your energy will get a lot more use doing super effective damage than doing resisted damage, if that makes sense. Like, or throwing your energy into a tankier Pokemon versus less bulky Pokemon, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know. Let me just give you a quick example. Let's say you lead a Gligar into a Magnezone, and then you build up energy, and just as you're about to get to your ground type move, which would obviously destroy the Magnezone, they swap out into a Cresselia. Instead of throwing that dig into the Cresselia, it could be much better to swap out and switch into, I don't know, an Annihilate that will be able to do super effective damage with a Shadow Ball to a Cresselia. I don't know, that's just an example, but like different things like that people don't think about. Most people would probably just throw the dig and then switch or something like that, but like there is actual skill expression in PvP. I think that's like, this is the topic. This is the topic here that I always get. People like PvP in Pokemon Go, and I think Niantic, the reason they make it so simple is because it's so simple. It's simple to learn. It's simple for players to get into. If I try to teach my mom the main series Pokemon games, it is so complicated. Abilities, items, different status effect moves, stat debuffing moves, etc. It's so complicated. But if I could teach my mom, hey, you just gotta tap on the screen until you have a charge move, and then you have to hit all the bubbles on the charge move, and then you have 2 shields every single game, and you have to kill 3 other Pokemon. So much easier. And I think Niantic wants to keep it that way because they know Pokemon Go is more family friendly. It's a wider range of people. Like, obviously the majority of people who play Pokemon Go are probably people, you know, my age who grew up playing Pokemon and now love Pokemon and have phones and have time, I guess, and jobs and can pay for Pokecoins. But, you know, it's still a much wider variety of game. We have old people, like we saw last episode, there was a 74-year-old who plays this game. So we want to make sure, or Niantic wants to make sure that this game is, I guess, available for the most amount of people, if that makes sense. So I understand why PvP is basic. But again, it's a thing of, do we keep it simple or do we make it more complicated and more fun? Now, I have a couple ideas for mechanics, and we've talked about this before. I think it could be really fun to add abilities potentially to Pokemon Go and add different status effects and stuff like that to the game. That would allow for, I guess, more skill expression and different, I guess, availabilities, opportunities, you could say, for the higher advanced players to kind of have more fun in the team building and different stuff like that, and not have to, I guess, feel the RPS, rock, paper, scissors aspect of Pokemon Go sometimes. But then, again, if you do that, it's going to make the game more complicated and less people will potentially want to learn it, or it'll be more, it'll be more, like, it'll be a lot to pretty much get to the game. Obviously, abilities, holding items as well, held items. If you don't know, in the main series Pokemon games, you can give people like held items and they'll get different abilities. Like, I don't know, there's something called a life orb that would make you do more damage, but like every turn you would take damage, you would like hurt yourself kind of. So I think there's just plenty of different stuff like that. And I think it could be managed actually pretty well. Like, if Niantic only drops like 5 items into Pokemon Go, it's not like the main series games where there's hundreds of items to choose from. It's going to be very simple. But at the same time, it's that question, how simple do we want to keep Pokemon Go PvP? Now, on the other end of all this, instead of adding new things, could Niantic make PvP, I guess, just more refined, and just kind of change the way the game is played right now? And when I mean that, I mean things that we've seen before in Pokemon Go. 30-second switch timers. A lot of people have asked for that back. I think people don't think PvP is dynamic enough because you can only switch every minute. But if you could switch every 30 seconds, that would allow for a lot more quicker gameplay, a lot more plays, and a lot more locking into a bad matchup, if that makes sense. Also, the stability of Pokemon Go is obviously something we need to talk about right now. I've been PvPing the last week. If you've been watching into the streams, you know that right now, because of this update, because of this map update, which is beautiful, it seems like Pokemon Go is just so much less stable in PvP. We're having frame drops. We're having a lot of lag. We're having games that just completely freeze. I've had a lot of players that I'm going up against just lag out. And obviously, I think that's just an issue that's going to come with Pokemon Go throughout the years. Again, you got to think about Pokemon Go is a game that's run on a literal mobile phone. Look how thin this thing is. Like, it's kind of impressive sometimes to think about how, like, that we can play a game on something this big. So I think just naturally the game is going to have lag. Granted, it's going to be better at times than others. I think right now Pokemon Go PvP is just in a bad spot because of this new update, and I think Niantic just needs some time, I guess, to like refine it, get it going, get it good, before we can kind of move on and improve it, I guess. I don't know. I hope they fix that. Yeah, I definitely feel you, any of you PvPers who are out there struggling with that. But let me know in your the comments what you think they could fix with PvP, because I think that's just a big aspect of the game, right? Pokemon Go, like someone commented me this. They're like, the whole point of Pokemon Go, or the whole slogan of Pokemon is, to catch them all is my real test, to train them is my cause, or I want to be the very best, and I think, or something like that. Like, but I want to be the very best. It's all about battling, I think. It's all about becoming the champion, the best at PvP, the person who can use their Pokemon and defeat the most other Pokemon, which is arguably a very scary and dark thing for a kid's show, but still. So yeah, I hope it gets improved. But nonetheless, I enjoy PvP. Again, I understand why it can be frustrating. But I do think there's a lot of skill expression available in it. And I think if the game was stable and we had a couple minor tweaks, I think it could be very fun. And I'm open to the idea of items and abilities and all that stuff. I just, again, want people to think about, like, 60-year-old mom, or like, 5-year-old Timmy who joins Pokemon Go and I guess shies away from PvP because it's too complicated, and then ends up quitting Pokemon Go as a whole because it's not altogether. But again, maybe we don't think about Timmy and we think about 60-year-old mom, and maybe we only think about ourselves, because again, like who's the most important, right? That's the question. Who's the most important? Who should we make changes for, right? Everybody always says make changes for the player base, but the player base is the most wide varied player base there is. So it's just, again, it's just so political. I don't know why, but like literally that's like, quote me, Pokemon Go is political. Pokedaxy, that's like the quote of the year for me. Okay, one more thing I want to talk about. Let's go to a new spot. Okay, and that brings us to our final point here, which I think I want to talk about, is that for some people, I think there's no fix. I don't think there's a fix, because I think Pokemon Go is one of those games that naturally you just can't play forever. And I think that's almost any game. You can't just play a game forever and always enjoy it, and it's always going to be perfect. And I think sometimes there's even like people who haven't been playing for a while, there's not one thing that would change that would get them to come back to Pokemon Go and I guess play it again, or be excited with it again. So pretty much what I'm trying to say here is that sometimes you just need a break. And for some of you guys watching this video, I think it's very important to think about that. Is it time for a break in Pokemon Go? Is it time to step away from the game and take a break? I think that's completely natural. I always think about this. I know I talked about this earlier, but Minecraft. Minecraft is one of those games that theoretically is like literally perfect. Anyone can play it. It's a sandbox game. There's no political things involved in it. It's like literal block people. There's so much to do in it as well. It's such an open game. Like there's endless possibilities. It's not like you're going to run out of things to do in Minecraft. You'll never run out. But still, I don't think some people could play Minecraft forever. I think at one point you would get bored of it. And I think that's just natural with Pokemon Go as well. Is like at some point you're just going to kind of want to quit and I guess not play the game anymore. Nonetheless, before we end this video, we do have to talk about some of the comments from last video. I do want you guys to, oh, this is not the right video. I do want you guys to, no, that's not the right video either. What was the last video? Oh no, it was this. I do want you guys to let me know in the comments what changes you would like to see come to Pokemon Go, and I will react to them in the next Let's Play episode. And if you're on Spotify or YouTube, can you leave comments on Apple Music? I don't know. But if you can, come over to YouTube and let me know. Anyway, I have a mega, okay, that is not a comment. Oh, I did newest. Hold up, top comments about last week's question, which was what to expect from Pokemon Go this summer, which actually some of it was confirmed, Dawnwings and Duskmane Necrozma. First of all, I really hope to see the return of Mega Rayquaza, because I'm sad I didn't play it during GoFest last year. From Fallman, 100%, I would agree. Dude, if they don't bring back Mega Ray during like a raid day I'm going to be pretty mad. JT Valor confirmed that Mega Latios and Latias are showing up at the Pikachu's Indonesia Journeys event at the moment, which is thumbs up. Thank you to that. Let's see if there's any other question. Okay, here's a good question. Honestly, I really don't like how they aren't bringing back old Pokemon back from promos, like Zacian and Zamazenta should really come back in a release of Galarian Mons, which they should add Grookey, Scorbunny, Sobble, Evos, and some Route 1 Mons, kind of like they did with Paldea, instead of doing more stuff for old gens like Alola, which is a great point. Yeah, I fully agree. It was kind of random when they did end up dropping the Zacian and Zamazenta. And actually, that's a side point. Something I didn't mention in that video is the Ultra Unlocks is something we'll probably see this summer, which is how Zacian and Zamazenta got released, is through this Ultra Unlock feature. So if the Ultra Unlocks end up coming, it could be cool. Maybe we'll get Zacian and Zamazenta to return, and maybe they'll have, what's it called? They'll have the shiny forms, which I'm hoping for, and their new moves would be really cool. What else do we have here? Okay, here's a good one. What you kind of seem to forget from Ruben Star is that Niantic getting behind with releasing Pokemon. The Pokemon Company has released so many new Pokemon with Sword and Shield and also Scarlet and Violet, but not only new Pokemon, also new forms. At this rate, we won't get Paradox Pokemon for years. It's fine if they want to keep some stuff for bigger events, but if the wait with all the new Pokemon for something big, they will only be more behind. 100%. That's honestly, I think this is actually the comment that gave me the reason I talked about earlier on why I think Niantic should drop Pokemon quicker, is because there's just so much. And yes, forms 100%, like Paradox Pokemon, there was like 16 to like 20, I think, Paradox Pokemon that Niantic could be releasing and that haven't come to Pokemon Go. I don't really know why, but they haven't. Any more things we want to mention here? Mega Rayquaza will probably be the first mon which I will properly invest in, says a new player here, Darsh. I'm thinking of bringing it to level 45 at least, dumping all my rare candies, etc. Water types mostly used for ground types. Yes, didn't get a good Kyogre. Mega Ray is also just so useful. You can solo so many raids with just a Mega Ray, so going all in. 100%. I think if there's actually one Pokemon you're going to invest in, Mega Ray is probably the best. It just does so much damage. It can be used as a raid attacker against any type. I actually have a video coming out shortly talking about how good Mega Ray is. Anyway, doesn't seem like a lot of people answered the question. Is there any more of these? Okay, we just got compliments. Newer watcher, just want to appreciate how self-aware and objective you are in your opinions. Enjoyed your last one. Mentioned therapy. Go to therapy, guys. Go to therapy. Anything to say that my therapist told me that is new to tell you guys? You know what I think, I already talked about it in this episode, but remember, sometimes things in life don't have solutions. They just suck, and you just got to get through the suck, you know? I think that's something I'm kind of realizing, is that sometimes life, you know, some things have solutions and some things you can improve, like Pokemon Go, but some things, it just sucks. So you just got to get through it, power through the sucky times of Pokemon Go, and you'll get to it. Anyway, people are starting to stare at me while I'm talking about stuff. Guys, thank you for watching this episode. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any suggestions for what you want to see me yap about in the next episode, let me know. And yeah, we'll be back next week. I'm going to try to make these weekly. And also, again, you can listen to these episodes now on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And also, actually, before I end this video, I do want to mention the trip. Anyone who's interested in going on the Mexico trip, tickets are on sale. I'm going to link them below. It's going to be a first come, first serve basis. Again, go check it out, guys. I'm really excited to go to Mexico with Pokemama. It's going to be a 6-day trip. We're going in. We're having a blast. We're catching Haluchas, Maractuses. We're playing Spotlight Hour, Raid Hour, and it's going to be with you guys. And also, I'm adding anyone who comes on the trip. So if you pull up, you'll get my friend code, and we can party up and do different stuff together. I don't know. It's going to be a blast. If you're interested in it, go check it out, because I would definitely love to have you guys there, and I think it'd be an absolute blast of a time. So go check it out. Anyway, that's it, guys. That is episode 8 of the Let's Go series, and we'll see you guys all next week with the next one. Yeah. Okay. Peace. Bye.